Bad faith questions. Welcome to Change the Conversation with the Hopefulist. My name is Wendy McClure, and it's time we had a conversation about living in a patriarchy and how that affects our lives. Together, we can make a difference and change the conversation. Thank you. Welcome back. I appreciate you being here, doing the work, and trying to change the conversation around patriarchy. I want you to imagine, if you would, what would it have been like if you could have gone through life, or could even go through life now, not being afraid every time you encountered a man you didn't know when you were alone. I don't think that men understand how real the fear is for women when they come across a man that they don't know and they have nobody with them, that we imagine all kinds of horrific situations, all things that could potentially happen and have happened many times, which is why we're afraid to begin with. I don't know if you have seen this or heard about this, but there was like a man on the street interview taking place. And the question that they were asking was, if you were alone in the woods, would you rather come across a bear or a man? And like 95% of women said, I'd rather be with the bear. And men are all up in their feelings about it. They're all getting, all upset. And they're just like, that's crazy. How could you say that? And my initial take on the response of women was, yeah, because a bear will only take your life. A man can do so much worse. A man, our biggest fear is a sexual assault. And as women, we know that is probably the worst thing that you can do to us. That is such a betrayal. That is such a horrific thing that you're taking from us without asking, against our will. And, I was thinking about this a little bit before I got started on the podcast. Men always encourage women to keep it sacred, keep it to yourself. It's a gift. It's a gift that you give men. And they've encouraged this in women for all time. Be picky, be choosy. Don't give it out all the time. This is what we've always heard. This is what society has deemed to be what a good woman does. But when somebody takes it from us, they just take it. They act like that's not that big of a deal. And we know this from the punishments that are enacted on these people that do that it's not really considered a major crime. That these people can sometimes, in the case of Brock Turner, if you remember, the swimmer who assaulted a woman behind a dumpster while she was unconscious, got a couple of months in jail because, as the judge said, well, let's not ruin his life because of 15 minutes. Maybe it was his father that said that. But regardless, the judge only gave him a few months in jail. So we're more worried about how the man's crime is going to affect his life than how it affected the life of the victim in the scenario. How insane is that? How absurd is that? And how common is that? So like I said, that was my initial take from this video, was that, a bear's not going to essay you. A bear's just going to eat you because they want food. And if they're not hungry, they're not even going to do that. They may even be afraid of you. You can scare a bear off. You very little can you scare off a man. But there's more. And as I was watching some of these videos, a woman said, I would choose the bear because if I said a bear attacked me, people would believe me. People would believe me. That statement's so real and so sad and so impactful that I almost just started crying right then, because it's such a horrible thing to not be believed. It's such a horrible thing to have a crime committed against you where something, your most sacred thing, is taken from you. And then, not only are you not believed, but then you are put in a position to defend yourself as to why you may have invited it, if it were to be believed. A woman was asking her husband about their daughter, and she said to him, would you rather our daughter, if she were alone in the woods, come across a bear or a man? And he's like, oh, well, we don't know anything about the man, right? And she's like, no. He's like, we don't know anything about the bear. And she's like, no. And he's like, geez, God, I don't know. And then she's like, okay, what if the choice was she were to come across a bear alone in the woods or a woman alone in the woods? He's like, oh, woman, no question. And she's like, okay, so you felt the fear of the first two choices between a man and a bear. You felt the fear for your daughter and how that, you had that visceral reaction. That is what us women go through every day. And he's like, what do you mean? She's like, if we come across a man in a parking lot that we don't know, we have that same fear that you just had for our daughter. And he's like, oh, okay. Wow. All right. I need some time to digest this. Men have no idea. They don't have any idea. It's like the one time I saw a man describing how a friend of his, a woman friend, came up to him at a party. It was late on a, Saturday night or whatever. It was like maybe 1, 2 in the morning. And she's like, can you walk me to my car? And he's like, well, yeah, but why do you need me to walk you? Just go to your car. And she's like, she just looked at him like, are you crazy? And he's like, oh, okay, yeah, all right, I get it. Like it doesn't occur to them because it doesn't happen to them. They don't live it. And the problem is that when we try to tell them, they often discount our experience. Just like the man who is now going viral for saying, you ladies are picking a bear over a man. Have you not seen nature videos? Do you not understand what bears can do to you? Yeah, we do. We absolutely do. But the bear is only looking for food. The bear doesn't have ill will toward us. The bear doesn't have a massive amount of disrespect and an entitlement that they can do whatever they want to us because that's what society taught them. That we have more chance of scaring off the bear than we do a man. It's these questions that are asked. And then when we give an answer, we're told that we're either lying, because that's what he said. He said, you ladies have got to be lying. There is no way you would rather come across a bear in the woods than a man. There's no way. Yeah, there is. See, so when we do answer the question, we find out that your question was asked in bad faith because you weren't going to believe our answer regardless. Because when men ask questions like these, they are usually only willing to accept one answer. And if it's not the answer that they want to accept, you're either a liar or you're just wrong. That's it. He went on to say, you guys are crazy if you think that you're going to have an easier time with a bear because he can do this, 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 and this. So he went on to tell us how we were wrong or we were liars. We were one or the other. We were wrong or we were liars. And these are the questions that men often ask women. And they ask a question with one answer in mind. And if it's not that answer, then they're not going to accept it. They're going to tell you you're wrong or you're lying. So when they ask these questions, they don't actually value our answers. They are trying to prove a point to themselves. And when that doesn't go the way they think it will, they have to justify it to themselves. They're not interested in how our experience is. They're only interested in how our perceived experience makes them feel. Because they don't like the fact that women would rather take on a bear than any one of the male species. Because that says something about the male species, that women find them more dangerous than a bear. And they don't like the way that makes them feel. So what they're doing when they're asking these questions is not to come up with answers or solutions. It's just to make themselves feel better. When a man says, you're telling me that you would rather face a bear than a man in the woods, then you just don't know what you're talking about. Then you just haven't seen enough bear or nature videos because you don't know what that bear can do to you. Or the other answer is, you're just trying to make us look bad. You know that you would rather be in the woods with a man, but you're just saying bear for, you're just trying to be overly dramatic. This is what we hear. And again, this type of questioning is not for understanding. It's for their comfort level. And that's really the backbone of patriarchy, is all of patriarchy has always been to make men and their lives more comfortable. So now that feminism has been rising, once again, thank goodness, we are telling them our real experience every single day. And they don't like the way that makes them feel. So they have to discount our experience to make themselves feel better. And that's exactly what they're doing. So how do we change the conversation around this? Well, we have to put it in terms like the woman did with her husband. Unfortunately, we have to. They're not going to get it until it's somebody that they love, until it's somebody that they would be upset if it were to happen to them. And this is different. This goes to the inherent lack of respect for women in this society. Men do not have an inherent sense of respect for women as they do for men. Men have a basic level of respect for other men, regardless of whether they know them or not. If a man walks down the street and shoulder punches another man by mistake, he turns around, sorry. Or it could be the same exact situation with a woman. And that same man could, and I'm not saying he would, but it could potentially be like, yo, can you get out of the way? There is an inherent lack of respect for women in this society. And unfortunately, we have to put it in terms for men to understand in the terms of somebody that they know and love to get the point across. Because if you think about this lack of respect, as I'm speaking of, is, a woman could be out and somebody's hitting on her. And, a big go-to is, hey, I'm married. And sometimes that doesn't work, but sometimes it does. And the men will back off for respect for the man, for her husband. That's why he's backing off, because he respects the man and the fact that's his wife. It has nothing to do with the fact that he now suddenly respects her because she's married. No, it has nothing to do with that. He is respecting the man, the husband in that situation. That's how bad the lack of respect is for women in this society. I saw another video where a woman was talking about her father owns a bar, and she's often in there working and, waiting tables, bartending, what have you. And she got into an incident one time with a couple of guys, and they were, being obnoxious. They were being crass. They were making comments, and she told them to stop, and they wouldn't. In fact, they were like, what's the big deal? We didn't do anything to you. You're making a big deal out of nothing or whatever. So finally, her father comes over, and he's like, what's going on? This is my daughter. Right away, the guys are like, oh, man, sorry. We didn't know. We didn't know that was your daughter. We apologize. They apologized to him. They apologized to him. They never apologized to her. Yeah. Hopefully that's a little bit of an eye-opener about the lack of respect we have for women in general as a whole in this society. And that is what needs to change most of all. So when you're talking about it and when you're trying to change the conversation, try to put it in terms that will highlight the fact that women don't get standard respect. We standardly get disrespect. And that until we can start changing that things are going to pretty much stay the same. But we are talking about it now. We are getting it out there. This is going to take a long time. It's not going to be something that happens overnight. This is something that's been ingrained in all of us from the time that we were born. Women have internalized misogyny. I have it myself. It's the way we were born. We were conditioned with it, that men's roles are more important than women, that women support men, that men are the head of the household, that we try to make life as comfortable as possible for men. This is internalized misogyny. We were taught this. And we have to be the ones to break it down, to rid ourselves of it, because men are not inherently more valuable than women. They aren't. And once we start to peel this away and deconstruct it, we can be valued for who we are, as we always should have been. So I want you to keep in mind as we move forward the 3 E's, okay? The 3 E's. The first one is explain. Explain how it feels to you. Explain to the men in your life why you would rather face a bear than a man if you were alone in the woods. If that's the case for you, explain to them why. Explain to them all of the different fears you have with coming up against a man that you don't know and the fear that you have coming up against a bear. Emphasize that they don't understand it because they have likely not had that experience. That living as a man and the privilege that they have to walk down the street and not feel unsafe, that they can go out at night, that they don't have to be in a group to go to the bathroom, that they don't have to be afraid that somebody's going to come up to them and start hitting on them. And if they say no, that it's going to turn into some sort of issue where you may get violence against you. Because that's what happens to women in bars all the time. A man comes up, tries to hit on you. You say no, thank you. He doesn't give up. He keeps at it until he becomes abusive and sometimes violent. Men don't have to worry about that. So you need to emphasize to them your experience and how they have never seen that from their point of view, because it doesn't happen to them. And the final E in the explain, emphasize and explore. Explore how it may be for others and include their experience with yours. Like, the BIPOC community, women of color, they have even more against them. They have more oppressing them. They have more holding them down. Listen to these stories. See how they intersect. See how they are different. And we can all come together to start making change for women. But pretending it's not happening is not helping. We've been doing that for decades and centuries. It's not helping women. Women are getting sick because they are not valued in this society for merely being a person. They are only valued by what they do. And what they do is what they do for others, not for themselves. So keep this in mind, explain, emphasize, and explore. And hopefully we can start getting the word out about why we would rather be in the woods alone with a bear than a man. Maybe they can start to finally understand. So if you like today's episode, if it resonated with you, if there's someone you think would resonate with it as well, please just copy the link, send it to them. If you haven't already, please leave us a 5-star review. It really helps to get the podcast out there so that other people can find it and listen to it and enjoy it just like you do. So thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. And I want you to go on out there now and be badass. I'm here cheering you on. Thank you for joining me in this conversation. Together, we are better. Please visit my website at hopefulist.com and remember to hit that subscribe or follow button.